Well, I'm so emotional, but we got one more question.
we
And
can cry at the end.
we'll definitely like I'll be crying a bit, but hello everyone and welcome to Educative Sessions. My name is Lingo and I am the community manager here with Educative. Educative makes it easy for authors to provide an interactive and adaptive courses for software developers. And Sessions is a multi-episodic campaign to engage people in the developer world about their coding experiences. Today's guest is community and program manager with ChickTech Seattle, Ivette Cortez. And today we're going to talk about a mother's long, winding road into technology. Ivette, welcome to the show.
Hey Lee, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
And let's go ahead and jump right in. I've known you for almost like near the beginning of this journey, and I'd love to set up a little bit more of the context around how you got into code. So let's start with what was going on in your life at the beginning, right? And you've been thinking about getting into a career for some time. So what did you have to do either mentally or informationally about your leap of faith into it?
It was something, like you mentioned, that was always sort of in the back of my mind and something I wanted to do. I really like technology as in general. And so when I decided that I would take the leap of faith, it was actually at the at the peer pressuring of one of my good friends. I happened to mention it to her about an event at ChickTech that I saw that was like intro to life in technology or something to the likes of that. And I wasn't sure. I'd never seen anyone that looked like me in technology. Um, and so, just in conversation with her, I was like, I want to go. I don't know if I should. And she's like, well, you'd kind of be a dummy if you don't. So you should just go. And I did.
I
So
think, what a scary, but what a blunt suggestion from your colleague. And I used to know a friend where if you're thinking about doing something like this, like you're even wondering about it, go. You just got to go, right? Knowing that like you're going to be fine if it ends up being terrible, but what if it ends up being great, right? Like that's, I think, something that we're both afraid of, but also really, really wanting. So, part of that journey. So you started off by checking out ChickTech, but I'm just going to throw myself into your story, whatever. Actually, I met you, I think, at these early stages as well. And, you brought yourself and your daughter, which was a rare forum, to a casual coding meetup that I organized at the time. What was going through your mind as you were entering in this unfamiliar space and, surrounded by strangers and surrounded by all these unfamiliar things?
Oh my gosh, I was so terrified. I so that at that time in my path, I was having a really difficult time, just personally, turmoil and whatnot. And so I had um, I had signed up to your coding event. I think it was JavaScript 101, or it was like CSS, and I don't know, but I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the class. Uh, but and my babysitting had fallen through, and so like you said, it was one of those things where I just had to do it. And I think I emailed you before, and I was like, hey, professor, I may just, is it okay if I bring my daughter? She's 4 and I'll entertain her. She'll have a screen. um,
That's coming. I nearly forgot about that. That's
uh,
awesome.
yeah. And you were like, yeah, I mean, as long as she's not jumping off tables, then cool. And so I brought her, and I think it was honestly, Lee, I think of that, and I appreciate you for for being so open and like just giving me that space. It really proved to me that there are people within tech that believe and live the inclusion part of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it sort of solidified what I needed to do within tech. And I, you know, Penelope, my daughter Penelope, she's 9 now.
Oh, congratulations.
Um,
Um,
yeah, um, she also learned from that event, and I didn't let it. Um, I didn't use the fact that I had a daughter stop me from pursuing that next goal of mine. Um, and you provided that platform, and it's really great to do that.
That might be the sweetest thing anyone has said to me. These sessions, but at the same time, I'm really moved by that because, I have a lot at the time. I was doing actually fairly similar work to what I'm doing now, except much more deliberately educational. And the sort of little secret that people don't, or at least the people who know me know, but the people who just are meeting me presume that I'm actually a coder or I'm a developer or anyone with an engineering background. I'm none of those things. I've only learned when I'm teaching people. Only that's always been the biggest motivation. First and foremost, I have a passion for education, and really, technology has always been that means too. So when first, I do now remember that letter, and I thought it was just the most nice deferential letter I ever got. Because usually people show up and like, what are we going to learn? What are we going to do? And I'm ready for them, right? It's not unusual, but it is rarer when like people show up with families because they just need to. And we are very inclusive. And also, I think when you brought Penelope to the class, we had a conversation about we need to do much more for people like Ivette and people who that is their journey. That it's they could be moms, they could be people who just really want to come out and be part of this new transformational thing, but just don't have the access to. And that is a question of access, right? And I've been a big believer of how do I break down every single wall possible. That's my real job. It's not so much I'm here to show you how smart I am at code because I'm not good at that. I'm really going to try to figure out obsessively what's the big barrier to someone's journey into code. And so if one of them is providing a space so that parents can come with ease and or to set up a side program that also includes youth, that's great too. But that's crazy moving. And the second part I do want to say is I hope the lesson was fun because the lesson by someone that doesn't really like know how to dive deep enough, but just love to make it fun and interesting and silly, but still enough so that like this is what you need to know. So
Oh, yeah, and I think that's another piece to it, right? I mean, it's about making it interesting, not just inclusive, but also interesting, not necessarily like this highbrow. This is what technology is, but technology can be fun and inclusive.
right.
So,
So
yeah.
that was, I mean, and that was my hope, and I'm glad that that was going forward. So, uh, I mean, I almost would love to dwell on this forever, but let's for me. And after that experience, clearly you've done so much more. So, what other strides did you make into exploring your interest in a career in code? And especially you mentioned, I think, in our talks in advance that you had to go through still some hurdles. What were some of those hurdles as well?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that become hurdles for other women, women of color, women with children. I stumbled through as well. You know, the After attending your session and a couple of other follow-ups, I realized, okay, this is, I do like coding. I can create something fun, something useful. Um, and so I want to go through with it. And there were several times where I would reach out to coding boot camps, and their schedules didn't necessarily work with a working mom, or someone with limited childcare. Um, and so that was really difficult. That was sort of demoralizing at first, because I was sort of like had the impetus, I had the move, the momentum, but every time I would call or I would email back and forth, it was like, yeah, okay, well, our next like weekend cohort doesn't begin until 3 months from now, or and weekends are tough too, for working parents. Sometimes it's the only time you get to spend with your kids. Um, so that was something. The other piece is, of course, when considering a career change, you have to essentially leave everything um, behind from your old career, or at least that's the thought. And I was an educator at the time, um, and that was my income. So how how am I going to go into a coding program without income? That's going to be tough. I also had to navigate all of that. But fortunately, I had my mom come to town, and my partner also had a little more flexibility with his work, and so um, combining those two, and Code Fellows also had this new sort of 4-week intensive program. I just jumped in the summer, so I wasn't working in the classroom,
Mhm.
but I did have the opportunity and the support from my family at that point.
Wow.
Um, and then once I did that, I went back to school to educate my students, and I created the school's first technology program. So I took what I learned and I made it into like its own curriculum and developed a way to include technology in every classroom. So I was able to kind of use that struggle
Yeah.
to propel more.
Yeah. I feel like what you just said was probably compelling. Excuse me. It was probably the most compelling case for like more investment, more grants, scholarships, what have you, uh, towards supporting people who want to jump into technology. That it's not a question of talent or will, it's a question of access. It's a question of the fact that like you were clearly motivated to do so. I know personally that you were, and yet, and also, I mean, not to uh, devalue your own experience, but it was also certain like having your family step in as well and provide you with that opportunity for access changed so much of the momentum as well. And I'm not saying you should feel guilty. I'm actually saying, if anything, there should be more opportunities like that for a lot of other people out there who really we're talking about, in the case of boot camps, maybe 3 to 6 months of a commitment in exchange for a lifetime of support. And I don't know if there's never enough, but there certainly should be more, right? Of
Mhm.
that kind of access to resources in order to get to that kind of journey.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm so emotional, but we got one more question. And
we can cry at the end.
we'll definitely like I'll be crying a bit, but and now it's I mean the most incredible thing that you went back to your school. I actually didn't know that part, that you went back to your school and established something that was lacking when you were an educator there.
Mhm.
But the journey wasn't done for you there. You still went forward. So now that you're in technology, what are you doing now? And like and I guess more importantly, what would you suggest for anyone else that is was in your shoes 5 years ago and wants to take that leap? But what do they need in order to get through and become successful?
Well, yeah, my path is not by no means is my path complete. I feel like I have so much more to do within the DEI community. It's getting better, but I have that guerrilla spirit where I'm like, no, we got to keep fighting, keep doing. And that's sort of the spirit that I have working within ChickTech. It was one of the first events that I went to, and I felt really it was the first time I saw a Latina speak about her journey in technology, and how she was a programmer, and I was like, wait a minute, we're out there. um, and so I stuck around. I volunteered at ChickTech, and that's one way. If you're in the you're transitioning your career and you're in this path and not sure what to do, volunteer. Um, I would say volunteer for ChickTech, but that's a shameless plug. um, but volunteer anywhere, volunteer at a school, volunteer anywhere where they have the opportunity to tinker with technology. That's one thing. It'll open doors. But as a volunteer, and then I was hired, and that same momentum, that same excitement and passion that I have to learn, I put towards developing programs and continuing the programs that ChickTech has in youth. And now, as we continue into like more virtual adult programming as well. And I'm it's bittersweet, but I'm coming to the end of my path within ChickTech. But I still I still think it's very important to volunteer, to reach out. LinkedIn can be scary because you don't know anyone necessarily, but just reach out to someone who go came from the same school, or is at a company that you really enjoy, or that you like and want to learn more about. Reach out to me, reach out to Lee.
Please do.
um,
I need friends. Please,
and yeah, Lee needs friends.
I need friends.
But yeah, the path is never done. There's so much more work to do, and I intend on doing it.
Well, that's wonderful, and I'm sorry to hear. I didn't realize, your journey with ChickTech was ending. It'll make this next thing to say kind of weird, but we'll see. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to do a shameless plug, whether it's about your current organization or it's about yourself or anything you're working on. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. No, well, as my next move in my career, it's my the end of the path with ChickTech, but I'm still very much engaged with the organization, and will continue to be so. Um, I strongly recommend that, if this is the path that you feel is yours, reach out to me, reach out to ChickTech at info@chicktech.org, um, and find out about our youth programming. We have virtual high school programs going on, which Lee, you were part of the when we were all in person still, of
Yes.
that program, the high school program. And we also have our ActW Plus programming, which are webinars and activities that we do online as well. It's all virtual. And you can find all that information on our websites, but it's probably faster to just reach out to me.
That's good. Yeah. You know, Coincidentally, I have been involved both as a volunteer. That was one of the most amazing days working with your young community at that event that we did with your organization. And I don't think I met a more passionate, talented group of people, young or any age, than the youth that you work with. I've also spoken at ActW as well, and I think it's a wonderful way. It's such a great way to lower these barriers. And I love the fact that you are still, no matter what, like doing work in that space. And it's just a testament to the character and to also the journey that you shared today.
Yeah, they're not getting rid of me.
Ivette, I think probably this is one of the most emotional talks I've had so far.
Aw.
Uh, and I appreciate you so much for taking the time to speak with me and to sharing your story. And I want to thank everybody who has listened or watched this conversation as well. please check us out. Please check out other talks like this on our YouTube channel, or you can check out our podcast as well. And lastly, if you're interested in learning more about Educative, you can check us out at educative.io. So my name is Lee. Thank you so much. And for all of us here at Educative, happy learning. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of Educative Session. If you liked this episode, please like it and share with your community. To stay informed about the latest sessions, subscribe to our channel by clicking the button above. Check out our podcast at educativesessions.podbean.com in the description below. Lastly, if you're tech curious, check us out at educative.io. Happy learning, everyone.